Welcome back. Tonight we travel far from busy cities, crowded roads, and the endless noise of the modern world. Instead, we journey to a lonely island surrounded by cold, restless waters. A place where the wind never truly stops blowing. A place where storms arrive without warning. And a place where, for many years, one man lived almost completely alone. This is the story of a lighthouse keeper. Not a king, not a soldier, not a famous explorer, just an ordinary man whose quiet work helped countless strangers survive the sea. Before we begin, find a comfortable position. Dim the lights if you can. Allow your eyes to grow heavy, and let the sound of this story carry you far away. Now imagine standing on a rocky coastline many years ago. The sky is gray. The air smells of salt. Far out on the horizon, waves roll endlessly across the ocean. There are no airplanes above, no engines humming in the distance, only the cries of seabirds and the steady rhythm of the sea. For thousands of years, oceans connected distant lands. Ships carried food, supplies, letters, and travelers between countries separated by vast stretches of water. But the sea was never completely safe. Hidden rocks waited beneath the waves. Thick fog could erase entire coastlines from view, and violent storms could appear with terrifying speed. Many sailors never returned home. Entire ships vanished into darkness. Families waited for loved ones who would never come back. Long before modern navigation systems existed, sailors depended on something much simpler: a light. A single light shining through the darkness. That light often came from a lighthouse. Today, lighthouses seem peaceful. Picturesque towers standing beside beautiful coastlines. Tourists visit them. Photographers capture them during sunsets. But life inside a lighthouse was not always peaceful, especially for the people who lived there. Every lighthouse required constant attention. The lantern had to remain lit. The machinery needed maintenance. The windows had to stay clean. The giant lens had to shine as brightly as possible. A small mistake could place hundreds of lives in danger, and so lighthouse keepers accepted a unique responsibility. Many lived far from towns. Some lived on remote islands. Others spent months surrounded by nothing but sea and sky. Their world was very different from our own. Days passed slowly. Weather determined everything. A storm could trap them for weeks. Supply boats sometimes arrived late. Letters from family could take months to arrive. And loneliness became a constant companion. Yet despite these hardships, many keepers remained dedicated to their work. Every evening they climbed winding staircases. Every night they watched the sea. And every morning they checked their equipment before beginning the cycle once again. The lighthouse was more than a building. It was a promise that someone was watching, a promise that a guiding light would remain visible even during the darkest nights. Our story begins on one such island, a lonely place surrounded by endless water. The island was small. Its cliffs rose sharply from the sea. Waves crashed against the rocks below. Grass bent constantly beneath powerful winds, and standing at the highest point was a tall stone lighthouse. Its white tower could be seen from miles away, at least on clear days. Inside lived a lighthouse keeper. He was not famous. History books rarely mention his name. No statues were built in his honor. Most sailors who depended on his light never even met him. Yet night after night, year after year, he performed the same duties. And because of that dedication, countless ships reached safety. As the sun slowly sinks below the horizon, the keeper begins another evening. The shadows grow longer. The air becomes colder. Far away, dark clouds gather over the ocean. A storm is coming. The keeper knows this because he has spent years studying the sea. He notices small details that others might miss. The movement of birds, the direction of the wind, the shape of distant clouds. Experience has taught him to pay attention. Soon, the lighthouse lantern must be lit. Soon, ships will need guidance, and soon, the long, lonely night will begin. But for now, everything remains quiet. The waves continue their endless rhythm. The lighthouse stands watch over the sea, and our journey is only just beginning, so relax. Listen to the distant wind, and prepare to spend the night with the last lighthouse keeper. The morning begins long before sunrise. There is no alarm clock, no busy street outside the window, no distant sound of traffic, only the wind. Always the wind. It whistles around the stone walls of the lighthouse, it rattles the windows, and sometimes it sounds almost like a voice calling through the darkness. The lighthouse keeper opens his eyes. The room is cold. A small fire burned through the night, but most of its warmth has disappeared. He sits up slowly and listens. Years of living alone have trained him to notice every sound. The crashing of waves, the creaking of wooden beams, the distant cry of seabirds. Everything sounds normal. That is good. On an isolated island, unusual sounds often mean trouble. The keeper dresses quickly, heavy wool clothing, thick boots, a weathered coat. Nothing fashionable, only practical. Life here is not about comfort, it is about survival. Before breakfast, he performs his first inspection of the day. A narrow spiral staircase twists through the center of the tower, step after step, round and round. Every day begins with climbing, and every day ends the same way. At the top waits the lantern room, the most important place in the entire lighthouse. The giant glass lens stands silently in the early morning light. Even now it looks impressive. Huge curved panels of glass surround the lantern. The lens is designed to capture every possible ray of light and project it far across the ocean. To sailors many miles away, it appears as a shining beacon. To the keeper, it is something even more important. It is his responsibility. He examines every section carefully. Dust is removed. Glass is polished. Metal parts are inspected. A single crack or mechanical failure could reduce the light's visibility, and reduced visibility could place ships in danger. Everything looks good today. The keeper allows himself a small nod of satisfaction. Outside, dawn slowly arrives. The horizon glows with pale shades of orange and gold. The ocean stretches endlessly in every direction. Some people might find the view beautiful. Others might find it lonely. The keeper has stopped thinking about it. After so many years, the sea simply feels like home. Descending the staircase once again, he prepares breakfast. The meal is simple. A piece of bread, a little cheese, perhaps some dried fish. Fresh food is rare on the island. Supply boats only arrive when weather permits. Sometimes storms delay deliveries for days, occasionally for weeks. Because of this, every item must be used carefully. Nothing can be wasted. After breakfast, the day's work continues. Many people imagine lighthouse keepers spending their days staring at the ocean. The reality is much less romantic. The lighthouse is a machine, and machines require constant attention. The keeper checks oil supplies. He inspects gears. He cleans equipment. He repairs anything showing signs of wear. Salt carried by sea air slowly damages everything it touches. Metal rusts. Wood weakens. Paint peels away. Without regular maintenance, the lighthouse would quickly deteriorate. The work never truly ends. As morning becomes afternoon, clouds begin gathering over the water. Nothing unusual. The weather changes constantly here. 1 hour may bring sunshine. The next may bring fog. The keeper studies the horizon. Years of experience have taught him patience. The ocean always reveals its intentions eventually. For now, there is nothing to worry about. A few seabirds circle above the cliffs. Waves roll gently against the rocks below. The island remains peaceful. In the afternoon, he checks the fog bell. Long before electronic navigation systems existed, ships relied on sound as well as light. During thick fog, visibility could disappear completely. A sailor might hear the bell long before seeing the lighthouse. That sound could mean the difference between safety and disaster. The mechanism appears to be working perfectly. Another task completed. Another responsibility fulfilled. Hours pass slowly. The keeper spends some time reading old journals. Many previous keepers left notes behind. Weather observations, ship sightings, records of storms. Some entries are decades old. Others belong to men who died long before he arrived. Their handwriting fills the pages. Small reminders that others once stood where he stands now. Others climbed these same stairs. Others watched these same waves. And others experienced the same loneliness. As evening approaches, the sky begins changing color. Golden sunlight spreads across the ocean. The water seems almost calm, almost peaceful. But appearances can be deceiving. The sea is never entirely predictable. The keeper knows this better than anyone. Soon it will be time to light the lantern once again. Soon darkness will return. Soon ships far beyond the horizon will search for the familiar beam. And when they do, the lighthouse must be ready. Because somewhere out there, unseen in the growing shadows, sailors are depending on a man they will never meet. A man standing alone on a rocky island, watching, waiting, and keeping the light alive. The sun disappears slowly. Golden light fades from the ocean. The sky turns orange, then purple, then deep blue. And finally, darkness begins its quiet march across the sea. For the lighthouse keeper, evening is the most important part of the day. Everything has been leading toward this moment. The inspections, the repairs, the cleaning, the endless routine. Now the lighthouse must do the job it was built to do, guide ships safely through the night. The keeper climbs the spiral staircase once more. His lantern casts moving shadows across the stone walls. Step after step. The staircase seems endless, yet he knows every curve by heart. He has climbed these stairs thousands of times. At the top, the lantern room waits silently. The great lens reflects the final traces of daylight. Outside, the horizon is already disappearing into darkness. The keeper begins his work. Carefully, methodically. There is no room for mistakes. The lamp is prepared. Fuel levels are checked. The mechanism is inspected one final time. Everything must function perfectly. Far away, sailors are depending on a light they cannot yet see. When the moment arrives, he ignites the flame. At first it is small, a simple flicker. But soon the light grows stronger, brighter, until the giant lens captures it and sends it across the sea. The first beam sweeps over the dark water, then another, and another. The lighthouse is awake. Outside, night settles over the ocean. The island seems smaller now. The darkness makes the world feel endless. From the lantern room, the keeper watches the beam rotate again and again, each flash cutting through the night, each flash carrying a silent message. You are not alone. Land is here. Danger is near. Safety is this way. The messages are never spoken, yet sailors understand them perfectly. Hours pass. The keeper remains alert. Night duty requires patience. Most nights are quiet. Nothing unusual happens, but quiet nights can be deceptive. The sea changes quickly. A calm ocean can become dangerous within minutes. That is why the keeper never relaxes completely. He constantly watches the horizon, searching, waiting, listening. Around midnight, fog begins to form. At first it appears as a thin gray blanket drifting across the water. Then it thickens, and thickens again. Soon entire sections of ocean disappear. The lighthouse beam still shines, but its reach becomes shorter. The fog swallows much of the light. The keeper expected this. Fog is common here, especially during colder months. He leaves the lantern room and descends partway down the tower. There he activates the fog signal. Moments later, a deep sound rolls across the sea. The mournful tone echoes through the darkness. Again, and again, and again. The sound is strangely haunting, almost like the voice of the ocean itself. Some people find it unsettling. The keeper finds it reassuring. As long as the signal continues, sailors know the lighthouse remains on duty. Back in the lantern room, visibility grows worse. The world outside becomes a wall of gray. The sea vanishes completely. The horizon disappears. Even the stars are gone. Only the fog remains. This is when accidents happen. Ships can drift off course. Captains can become confused. Hidden rocks can appear without warning. The keeper watches carefully. His eyes move constantly, looking for any sign of trouble. Hours later, a faint light appears. Very faint, barely visible. At first he wonders if he imagined it, but then he sees it again. A ship, somewhere beyond the fog. The vessel moves slowly, its light appears. Disappears. Then appears once more. The captain is searching, trying to locate the lighthouse. The keeper feels a familiar sense of responsibility. The sailors aboard cannot see him. They do not know his name. They will probably never meet. Yet tonight their safety depends partly on his work. The lighthouse beam continues sweeping through the darkness. The fog signal continues its lonely call. Gradually, the ship's light changes direction. The vessel has found its bearings. The captain understands where he is. Danger has been avoided. Slowly, the distant light moves away. Soon it disappears entirely. The keeper exhales quietly. Another ship guided safely home. Another night doing exactly what he was meant to do. Outside, the fog remains thick. The hours continue passing. The lighthouse stands firm against wind and darkness. Its beam never stops turning. Its signal never stops calling. And high above the restless sea, one lonely keeper remains awake, watching over people he will never know, protecting lives he will never see, while the rest of the world sleeps. Just before dawn, the fog finally begins to lift. Slowly, almost reluctantly. The gray wall that covered the sea throughout the night starts breaking apart. Small openings appear, then larger ones. Soon patches of ocean become visible once again. The lighthouse keeper watches from the lantern room. His eyes are tired. He has been awake for many hours, but his work is not finished. Not yet. The final hours before sunrise can be just as important as the darkest part of the night. Ships still travel. Weather still changes. Danger never completely disappears. Outside, the ocean looks different now. The water is calm. The wind has weakened. The stars begin fading from the sky. Far in the east, a pale glow appears on the horizon. Morning is coming. The keeper takes one last look through the glass. Nothing unusual. No ships in distress. No warning signs. Just the endless sea stretching toward the edge of the world. For a brief moment, everything feels peaceful. Then he notices movement. Not far from the island, a small boat. The keeper narrows his eyes. Fishing boats occasionally pass nearby, but something seems different. The vessel is drifting strangely, moving without purpose. The keeper continues watching. The boat rises and falls gently with the waves. No sail, no visible activity, no sign of anyone aboard. A feeling of concern settles over him. As daylight grows stronger, he finally understands. The boat is empty. Completely empty. The discovery is unsettling. Abandoned boats occasionally appear after storms. Sometimes ropes break. Sometimes vessels drift away from their owners, and sometimes the ocean keeps its secrets. The keeper watches silently as the small boat passes the island. Soon it disappears beyond the rocks, another mystery carried away by the sea. The ocean creates many questions, few answers. By sunrise, the lantern can finally be extinguished. The keeper carefully begins the shutdown process. The flame is reduced. The equipment is inspected. The great lens receives another cleaning. Every morning follows the same routine. Consistency matters. One careless mistake can become tomorrow's problem. When the work is complete, silence returns to the tower. The lighthouse has survived another night. Outside, sunlight floods the island. Golden rays illuminate the cliffs. Seabirds circle overhead. The ocean sparkles beneath the morning sky. It is difficult to believe that only a few hours earlier, everything was hidden beneath darkness and fog. The keeper prepares a simple breakfast. Bread, tea, a little preserved meat. Nothing special. But after a long night, even a modest meal feels rewarding. He sits beside the window overlooking the sea. This has become his favorite moment of the day. Not because of the food, but because of the quiet. No repairs, no inspections, no responsibilities for a short while, only peace. The keeper watches waves rolling toward the shore, one after another, endlessly. The rhythm never changes. The sea has repeated the same motion for thousands of years, long before the lighthouse existed, long before ships crossed these waters, long before anyone stood on this island. There is something comforting about that thought. After breakfast, the day's work begins again. A section of railing needs repair. Salt and wind have damaged several boards. The keeper gathers his tools and heads outside. The island is small, yet every corner requires attention. Nothing survives long against the power of the ocean. Paint fades, wood cracks, metal rusts. The sea is patient. It slowly wears everything down. The keeper spends hours working beneath the sun, hammering, measuring, replacing damaged pieces. It is difficult labor, but he enjoys it. Physical work keeps the mind occupied, and on a lonely island, that matters. As afternoon approaches, clouds begin forming once again. Not storm clouds. At least not yet. Just scattered patches drifting across the sky. The keeper notices them anyway. Watching weather has become second nature. Every cloud tells a story. Every shift in wind carries information. Most people would never notice. The keeper notices everything. Later, while organizing supplies inside the storage room, he discovers something unexpected. A small wooden box hidden behind older equipment. Dust covers the lid. The hinges are rusty. Clearly it has not been touched in years. Curious, he opens it carefully. Inside are letters. Dozens of them. Neatly tied together with faded string. The handwriting belongs to a previous lighthouse keeper. A man who lived here many years before. The keeper turns one letter over in his hands, then another. Each page contains pieces of a forgotten life, thoughts, observations, stories, memories. For a moment, the island feels less lonely. Someone else once walked these halls. Someone else listened to these waves. Someone else stood watch through long nights. As evening slowly approaches once again, the keeper carries the letters upstairs. Outside, the sun begins sinking toward the horizon. Another day is ending. Another night is waiting. And somewhere within those old letters may be a story that has remained hidden for many years. A story the ocean almost forgot. The sun disappears below the horizon once again. Orange light fades across the sea. Long shadows stretch over the island, and as evening settles around the lighthouse, the keeper cannot stop thinking about the letters. They sit on a small wooden table beside his chair. A forgotten collection of words, written by a man he never met. A man who once lived the same lonely life. The keeper lights a lamp. Outside, the ocean grows darker. Inside, warm golden light fills the room. Carefully, he unties the faded string holding the letters together. The paper is old. Very old. The edges have yellowed with age. Some pages are stained by seawater. Others bear marks left by years of storage. The handwriting remains surprisingly clear. Neat, steady, patient. The keeper unfolds the first letter. It begins simply. A journal entry, written nearly 40 years earlier. The previous keeper describes an ordinary day. The weather, the condition of the lighthouse, a passing fishing vessel. Nothing unusual, yet the keeper finds himself fascinated. Every sentence feels familiar. The same routines, the same responsibilities, the same endless horizon. It is almost as if he is reading his own thoughts. One letter becomes two. Two become five. Soon hours pass unnoticed. Outside, darkness fully covers the sea. The lighthouse beam sweeps across the water. The fog signal remains silent tonight. Visibility is excellent. The ocean is calm. For once, the keeper can read without interruption. As he continues, the entries begin changing. The writer becomes more personal. He writes about loneliness, about missing family, about the strange feeling of watching ships pass without ever meeting the people aboard. One passage captures the keeper's attention. The previous lighthouse keeper writes, "Sometimes I feel as though I exist between worlds. The sailors know my light, but not my name. The mainland remembers the lighthouse, but forgets the man inside it." The current keeper reads the sentence twice, then a third time, because he understands exactly what it means. Years of isolation create unusual thoughts. People become distant memories. Conversations grow rare. Entire weeks can pass without seeing another human being. The lighthouse remains important. The keeper becomes invisible, a silent guardian standing between land and sea. The fire crackles softly. Outside, waves continue breaking against the cliffs. The night feels unusually quiet. The keeper turns another page. Months pass within the letters. Seasons change. Storms come and go. Ships arrive and disappear. The previous keeper records everything. Not because anyone asked him to, but because writing helped him remain connected to the world. Then something changes. The tone of the letters becomes different, more serious, more cautious. The writer begins mentioning a ship. At first, it appears only briefly. A merchant vessel. Nothing unusual. The ship passes the lighthouse several times each year. The keeper notes its arrival, its departure, its familiar appearance. But then the entries become stranger. The ship stops appearing. Months pass without sight of it. The writer seems concerned. Several captains mention rumors. Stories spreading between ports. No one knows exactly what happened. The vessel simply vanished. No distress signal. No survivors. No wreckage. Just gone. Swallowed by the ocean. The current keeper glances toward the dark window. The sea looks peaceful tonight. Almost harmless. Yet he knows better. Every sailor knows better. The ocean gives life. The ocean provides trade. The ocean connects nations. But the ocean also takes. And when it takes something, It rarely gives answers. The keeper continues reading. The missing ship becomes an obsession for the previous lighthouse keeper. He records every rumor, every report, every possibility. Some believe the vessel encountered a storm. Others suspected hidden reefs. A few claimed it was seen far from its normal route. No explanation ever satisfied anyone. Eventually, the entries stopped mentioning the ship. Life continues. The lighthouse remains busy. New seasons arrive. Years pass. Yet one final note catches the keeper's eye, written near the bottom of a page, almost as an afterthought. The previous keeper writes, "Tonight, after nearly 2 years, I saw something beyond the fog. A light where no ship should have been. Perhaps it was imagination. Perhaps it was not." The sentence ends there. No explanation follows. No details. Nothing. The keeper slowly lowers the page. The room suddenly feels colder. Not frightening. Just strange. Outside, darkness stretches across the sea. The lighthouse beam sweeps endlessly through the night. And somewhere beyond the horizon, hidden beneath countless waves, lie stories that may never be fully understood. The keeper looks toward the window. For a moment he wonders how many mysteries the ocean still holds, how many ships have vanished, how many stories remain unfinished, and how many secrets rest beneath the black waters surrounding his lonely island. Then he folds the letter carefully, places it back onto the table, and listens to the sound of the sea, because tomorrow will bring another day, another sunrise, another routine. But tonight, for the first time in many years, the keeper finds himself thinking not about the future, but about the forgotten past, and the strange light mentioned in those old letters, a light that perhaps should never have existed at all. The next morning arrives quietly. Sunlight spills across the ocean. The waves sparkle beneath a clear blue sky, and yet the lighthouse keeper cannot stop thinking about the letters, especially the final entry, the strange light, a light that appeared beyond the fog, a light where no ship should have been. The previous keeper never explained what happened. He never wrote another detail. The mystery simply ended. And now, decades later, another keeper sits in the same lighthouse wondering about the same unanswered question. The morning routine begins as usual. The lantern is cleaned. The machinery is inspected. The railings are checked. Every task is completed exactly as it should be, but part of the keeper's mind remains elsewhere. Every few minutes he finds himself staring toward the distant horizon, as though answers might suddenly appear. Of course they do not. The ocean rarely gives answers, only more questions. By afternoon, the weather begins changing. Clouds gather slowly from the west. Nothing threatening. Not yet. But enough to cover the sky. The sunlight becomes softer. The island grows quieter. Even the seabirds seem less active. The keeper notices these things. He always notices. Years of isolation have sharpened his awareness. Small details become impossible to ignore. Later that day, while organizing supplies in the storage room, he discovers another bundle hidden beneath old equipment. More papers, more journal pages. These are older than the letters he found before. Much older. The handwriting belongs to the same keeper, but the dates reveal something interesting. These pages were written during the months immediately after the mysterious ship disappeared. The keeper sits beside the window and begins reading. The entries describe unusual weather, heavy fog, strange currents, days when visibility disappeared completely, Nothing remarkable for sailors, yet one passage stands out. The writer describes hearing a bell. Not the lighthouse bell, a different bell, far out at sea. The sound appeared during thick fog, soft at first, then louder, then gone. The keeper pauses. Ships often carried bells. There is nothing unusual about that. Yet according to the journal, no vessel was visible. Only fog. Endless fog. And the sound of a bell ringing somewhere beyond sight. The current keeper continues reading. Several entries mention the same thing. The bell appears repeatedly, always during fog, always at night, always alone. The descriptions remain calm and practical. The writer does not claim anything supernatural. He does not seem frightened, only puzzled. The entries end with a simple conclusion. Perhaps sound travels strangely across the sea. A reasonable explanation, yet something about the pages feels unfinished, as though the writer himself never fully believed it. Outside, the wind begins strengthening. Clouds darken overhead. The sea becomes rougher. White foam appears on the waves. A storm may arrive before nightfall. The keeper closes the journal and heads outside. There is work to do. Equipment must be secured. Loose objects must be tied down. Storm preparation is a normal part of life here. No matter how many years pass, the ocean always demands respect. By evening, the weather has transformed completely. Rain lashes the windows. Wind screams around the tower. Waves crash violently against the cliffs below. The lighthouse stands firm, but the storm feels powerful. The keeper lights the beacon early. Visibility is already deteriorating. Darkness arrives faster than expected. Soon the familiar beam begins sweeping across the angry sea. Again, and again, and again. Hours pass. The storm grows worse. Rain strikes the glass like thousands of tiny stones. Thunder rolls across the horizon. Lightning briefly illuminates the ocean. Each flash reveals enormous waves rising from the darkness. The keeper remains at his post, watching, waiting, listening. Then something unexpected happens. Between two flashes of lightning, he notices a light, very distant, very faint. At first, he assumes it belongs to a ship. That would be normal. Many vessels travel during storms, but something feels unusual. The light remains perfectly still. No movement, no change in direction, only a single point of brightness floating within the darkness. The keeper studies it carefully. Minutes pass. The light remains. Then the fog begins drifting across the sea. Slowly, the distant glow disappears. Gone. As though it never existed. The keeper continues watching. Perhaps it was a ship. Perhaps not. The storm makes observation difficult. Distance can be deceptive. Light behaves strangely in bad weather. Still, he cannot ignore the coincidence. The old journal, the mysterious entries, the unexplained light. And now this. Another distant glow appearing where nothing should be. The keeper says nothing. There is nobody to tell. Nobody to ask. Only the storm. Only the lighthouse. And only the endless sea surrounding the island. As midnight approaches, the wind howls louder than ever. The great tower trembles slightly beneath the force of the storm, yet the beacon continues shining. Its light cuts through rain and darkness, a promise to sailors somewhere beyond the horizon, a promise that even during the worst nights, someone remains awake, watching, waiting, and wondering what secrets may still hide beyond the fog. The storm continues through the night. Rain pounds against the lighthouse windows. Wind howls across the island like a living thing. The sea below has become a battlefield of water and darkness. Massive waves crash against the cliffs. White foam explodes into the air, and far above it all, the lighthouse beam continues its endless sweep. The keeper remains awake. Sleep is impossible during weather like this, not because he is afraid, but because storms demand attention. A lighthouse keeper cannot simply trust everything will be fine. He must know, he must watch, he must be ready. The hours pass slowly. Midnight becomes 1 o'clock, then 2. The storm shows no sign of weakening. Lightning flashes across the horizon. For brief moments, the entire ocean becomes visible. Then darkness returns. Again and again. The keeper stands near the lantern room window, watching, listening, waiting. Then it happens. Another flash of lightning. Another brief glimpse of the sea. And there it is, the light. The same strange light he saw earlier, far beyond the reach of the lighthouse beam, far beyond where any ship should be traveling during a storm. The keeper freezes. This time he knows he is not imagining it. The light exists. Small, distant, unmoving. A pale glow suspended in the darkness. He watches carefully. Another lightning flash illuminates the horizon. The light remains. Still there. Still motionless. The keeper feels a strange mixture of curiosity and concern. Every instinct tells him the light should belong to a vessel. Yet vessels move, especially during storms. No ship would remain perfectly stationary in such conditions. The ocean itself would not allow it. Minutes pass. The glow remains visible. Then the fog returns. Thick gray clouds drifting low across the water. Slowly, the mysterious light disappears once again. Gone. Vanished behind the curtain of mist. The keeper exhales quietly. For several moments, he continues staring into the darkness, hoping it might reappear. It does not. Only rain. Only wind. Only the endless black ocean. He turns away from the window and looks toward the old journal lying on the nearby table. The memory returns immediately. The previous keeper saw a light beyond the fog, a light that should not have existed. And now, decades later, another keeper has witnessed the same thing. The coincidence is difficult to ignore. Outside, the storm begins changing. The rain weakens slightly. The wind shifts direction. Experienced sailors would recognize the signs immediately. The storm is moving away, not finished, but weakening. The keeper decides to make tea. A simple task. Something familiar. Something ordinary. Life on the island has taught him the value of routine, especially during strange moments. The kettle begins heating above a small stove. Warmth slowly fills the room. For a few minutes, the keeper allows himself to relax. He sits beside the fire, listening to the storm fade, listening to the waves, listening to the lighthouse machinery turning steadily overhead. The sounds are comforting, predictable, reliable, unlike the mysterious light. When the tea is ready, he returns to the lantern room. The ocean looks different now. The clouds are breaking apart. Small openings reveal stars beyond. Moonlight occasionally reaches the water. The storm is finally passing. And then he hears something. A sound. Faint at first. So faint he wonders if it is only the wind. He listens carefully. There it is again.